Welcome in, everybody. Today is just about the first day of the season. Just short. We are less than 30 hours, about 25 and a half hours from the official kickoff of the 2021 NFL season. It is September 8th. Kickoff is September 9th, for those of you who can't do that simple math. I am Flying Ryan Gilchrist, along with
Tampa Motor Mouth, Joel Verlin here, waiting to see just how long until halftime on Thursday when the game will be over.
Well, we'll see. I think it's actually going to be a pretty good game, but only time will tell. We are going to go over our Thursday night football picks. We're going to pick the Super Bowl winner. We're going to spoil the whole season for you today. We're going to talk some big surprises, big flops for teams. We're going to finally let you in on our top 5 fantasy heroes and our top 5 fantasy zeros. We've done our preview shows, but now we can finally say these were my guys. We're going to put it on the record today. All the guys on my heroes list, I got at least a little bit of, if not a lot of. I don't have any shares of my zeros outside of Dynasty League, so I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I know. I just ended up having a team totally ended up auto drafting. Reminds you why auto drafting is the way it is with the algorithms when you end up getting 2 defenses.
Yes, the big board behind me has a lot more than normal. We have our normal 2 picks in the top corner for Joel and Ryan, our pick numbers. Then we have all of my Dynasty
you're
fantasy
Ryan.
leagues.
I'm Joel.
Yes, I get that confused sometimes. So all of my fantasy leagues are behind me. I'll update the records as we go through the season.
Is that like the big quote from Crowley from the Three Stooges? I'm trying to think, but nothing's happening.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been a day. Yeah. So one more fantasy draft for me at 8:45 tonight, and then it'll finally be the football.
And we have to start off before anything else, of course, Toxic as a home.
Yes, last year's toxic garbage player Le'Veon Bell was signed by the Baltimore Ravens, who had their second running back Justice Hill go down to a season-ending injury after J.K. Dobbins. Backfield now looks like Tyson Johnson backing up Gus Edwards with Le'Veon Bell on the practice squad. So home for him may be a good pickup. We'll see if he's got anything left. If he's got anything left, that's the best situation for him. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I picked him up in the Dynasty League where I already lost J.K. Dobbins, picked up Justice Hill, and then he got hurt as well. So not looking good for Le'Veon Bell's health on that pattern. So, yeah, we're going to go over some fantasy heroes, fantasy zeros, and then Joel has some questions, and let's start there. Because Joel always has questions. I never know what the questions are, and then I am forced to be on the spot and answering them.
Of course, we already ended up taking care of the very first, most important story, and that is, of course, Toxic finding a home. This kind of adds into the first question. Of course, with Baltimore adding Le'Veon Bell to its practice squad, the Ravens also signed running back Trenton Cannon to their 53-man roster today. Ryan, what fantasy value does one Mr. Cannon have, if any?
Fire the cannons, but not for him because he's not going to be anything. Honestly, he's a number 3 running back. You should never be drafting a number 3 running back. And I want to say once Le'Veon Bell cracks that roster, he becomes the number 4 running back on that team. Just a hunch.
Right, and when we go from Baltimore, we go back over to the land of the Big Easy, where hopefully people are having power restored. I think it was finally under 500,000 people with at the power outage site. Just absolutely insane. But going to Nolan Land, going to the Big Easy, of course, where Latavius Murray was released and Tony Jones Jr. was signed to the squad. How big of a shakeup do you think that tends to be? Because, of course, now Tony Jones Jr. becomes AK's main handcuff. What does that mean for the future of New Orleans and their running game?
I don't think it hurts them at all. Latavius Murray was an older running back. He was definitely solid, definitely somebody that could have provided value for them. But Tony Jones had a great preseason. Alvin Kamara is obviously the unquestioned number 1. I do think Latavius Murray will end up somewhere where I can't say yet. I do know in the Megla Bowl, which is one of the drafts behind me, Fantasy Footballers 15,000 player plus fantasy league that I'm trying this year. We'll see how that goes. He was auto drafted in the 13th round, and we had a nice chuckle because it was right after he was cut. So I think he'll end up somewhere, but as far as Tony Jones Jr. goes, I do have him in our 16-teamer on my bench just in case something happens to Alvin Kamara. If that happens, that is a absolute steal, but not someone you're going to draft typically. Maybe someone you can hold in a deeper league like our 16-teamer, but other than that, probably not someone you're going to have on your roster.
All right. This question is you can only start one this week question, tying directly into, of course, tomorrow night's game. You can only start one of these: Mike Evans or CeeDee Lamb. Flying.
Well, I will start Mike Evans. There is some concern about Chris Godwin. He did practice in full day, but battling some injuries. I think Evans has more of Brady's targets. I kind of think Godwin's going to become the number 3 receiver there this year. I just have this feeling Antonio Brown is going to step up. Mike Evans, I've said before with fantasy, I can be comfortable with him as my number 1 receiver. And it's going to be interesting, but I think I would start Mike Evans. He's going against a weaker defense than the Bucs defense. Cowboys have no defense. We don't know which corner he's going to get, but it's really between bad and worse and terrible. So whether he's the number 1 priority as far as wide receivers for the Cowboys go, or the number 3 and he gets weaker coverage, I think he's going to torch it. Whereas CeeDee Lamb, they're going to have good coverage on him either way. So this is a week, if you drafted CeeDee Lamb, Zeke Elliott, Amari Cooper, even Michael Gallup, or Dak Prescott, temper your expectations. They're going up against an elite defense. I do think this will be a surprisingly offensive game because offense tends to get in sync before the defense. We'll go over those picks later, but in this case, I would rather have Mike Evans.
Free agent quarterback Cam Newton says on Instagram that he has a lot to get off his chest in a forthcoming video on Friday, but makes clear, quote, "This is not a retirement speech. I have a lot of football still in me. My question to you, Flying, is where does Cam land in 2021?
Well, I think he'll eventually land somewhere. Short term is going to be on his couch playing some Madden, it sounds like, if he's got a lot of football left in him. Let's see. Who really could use a skilled backup similar to Cam Newton? You could go to someone like Baltimore, where they already have a running quarterback scheme. You can go somewhere similar to, let's say, Dallas behind Dak Prescott. They've got an absolute waste minefield behind him. Offhand, if I asked you who the backup for Matt Ryan was, could you name him? So I'm guessing that would be an upgrade. Or possibly in Seattle behind Russell Wilson. You want to find someone that Cam's unique skill set with the running ability can mimic well enough. I think the best fit would be Baltimore. I don't know if he's going to be willing to take a surefire backup job. He might wait until week 3, week 4. Maybe there's an injury and some team goes, you know what? We need somebody that has some experience instead of, Davis Mills. He could end up in Houston as well because Deshaun Watson does not look to play. Davis Mills is a 3rd-round rookie who does not show the promise of a talented player. And Tyrod Taylor, just nothing to be excited about there. So there's some options. I think Baltimore and Houston are probably the 2 most likely. I would say Baltimore is his best fit because at least he's got a chance to get or win a Super Bowl with that team. Whereas if he goes to Houston, he has a chance to be replaced as the rookie number 1 pick next year. Spencer Rattler will probably be in town.
All right. A week 1 rankings battle question with 3 participants for you to choose from one of these 3 people. Of course, first off, we have 1, Wentz. Second off, we have Herbert, your most favorite quarterback in the whole land, and of course you have the choice of either of those, or behind door number 3, 1 famous Jameis Winston.
All right, so the question was Carson Wentz, who is going against the Seattle Seahawks, Justin Herbert, who will be going up against the Washington Turds, or Jameis Winston going up against the Green Bay Packers. I got to be honest here. I think I'm going to go Wentz 1, Herbert 3, Winston 2. Yeah, I did that in the wrong order, but I'm going to go Wentz 1. Seattle's defense was terrible last year, especially against the pass. That's still a great offensive line in Indianapolis. They have a good enough running game with Jonathan Taylor. They're talking about getting Naheem Hines in more in the passing game. So there's enough weapons. I think that defense for Seattle's bad. I think Wentz will have a good game. Then it's real tight. I can go either way on the next two, but I'm going to say Winston just because I feel like he's got a lot more to prove. I think the front seven for Washington is better than the front seven for Green Bay, which means Jameis will have more time to pass. I actually have the Washington defense in a couple places because, I had the turn at the end of the draft and I went, hey, let me get my defense kicker around early. So I would say let's go Wentz, Winston, and Herbert. Wentz, I think, will clearly finish above both of them in fantasy production. And I think the Colts will be the only team of those three to win, if I'm previewing my picks correctly.
Okay, that's all for the questions. I think we're ready for the zeros and the heroes.
Yes, let's go. You want to be positive or negative first? Let's see. Are we positive or negative today?
Accentuate the positive.
All right, so let's start
the negative, and don't let Joel sing under any circumstances.
Yes, let's not go that far negative. Let's start with our positive. Joel, I've got mine 5-1, and I've actually got a bonus for each one. But Joel, let's see. You're 5-1.
All right, 5-1. My fantasy heroes, of course, starting off, I've got 2 quarterbacks in there. Of course, your favorite one, the trash can. I don't think he's the trash can. I think he's going to be just incredible this year. Justin Herbert. That's why I got him again. And we'll see that hopefully, if not, my expectations are not disappointed. Because sometimes when you tend to have a good year, the next year you sort of come down to earth a little bit. Let's hope he doesn't. Of course, the persons you tried to get in a trade this week with me, but I didn't bite. Myles Gaskin. That would be number 2. Number 3 would be a wide receiver I definitely looked a bit down on last year because he was a very frustrating fantasy, just a sort at times a quagmire, but then all of a sudden rose to greatness when you least expected it. So I'm thinking Marquise Brown is going to definitely be a fantasy hero on the Baltimore Ravens. And my next to last one, who isn't a quarterback, my last one is a quarterback, a kicker, just because of the name, Sam Ficken. I'm sorry, that's got to be one of those that anytime you're a play-by-play person and you say it, you have to very, very hard not to chuckle on the air. Audibly, and my final fantasy hero, just because anybody who can deal with that kind of a game and have to put back the helmet on and put the uniform back on and go back out and soldier on the next year, Baker Mayfield, after that utter complete cluster of a game, the Browns and the Steelers ended up just having just that one. And he came back on, ended up just the Browns had the whole year when you ended up having all of the one wide receivers that they didn't have for the. And I just killed my drink onto the floor, so that was fun.
Oh boy! Not even we're into week 1 form now.
So yep, we are. Anywho, but I tell you what, recovering from that, just unbelievable as to see if the Browns can somehow recover from that utter complete playoff. Just a nightmare, and just the game, much as knocking over a drink. So we'll see. But those are my fantasy heroes with some added extra impact.
All right. So Joel is so excited. He's throwing beverages around. I'm going to try and contain myself. I also have my beverage in a cup that has a lid.
Hold on, and I'll just need to get something on the floor. So if you don't mind, I will be right back.
All right. So Joel off to get a towel. I guess I'll have to find some time to kill before I go through my fantasy heroes because it really doesn't work if I just list off names. So yeah. Anyways, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the Megala Bowl draft. It was a different experience. It was definitely the toughest draft I've been a part of. I felt like it was constantly being sniped by people. We had one person at a point of this draft say they were quadruple sniped. They had 4 people in their queue, 4 picks to go, and every single one of them got sniped. And Joel is back. And funny enough, that snipe streak started with my honorable mention for Fantasy Heroes. That was someone I took. Javonte Williams for the Denver Broncos. He is a rookie, but he looks in line to take that job away from Melvin Gordon, especially if Melvin Gordon gets hurt early on or if he's just ineffective. So he's an honorable mention. I like him. Not quite as much as the other 5. A couple on Joel's list I definitely like, didn't make my list, in Gaskin and Marquise Brown. So for me, number 5, someone I've been talking about as a sleeper to an extent and real excited about, Robbie Anderson of the Carolina Panthers, already with the rapport with Sam Darnold. CMC is going to open up that passing game because they're going to have to focus on him to stop him. Robbie Anderson is just too good to be one-on-one covered. I think he's going to be a stud this year. I've got him all over the place. Number 4 is the jersey I'm wearing. It is Mike Gesicki. Tight end, I think he's going to have a great connection with Tua Tagovailoa, and I just think he's going to be a good player this whole entire season. Number 3, I also have it Brown, but it's not Marquise. It is Antonio Brown. I did mention I thought he would kind of usurp Godwin as that number 2 receiver. He could possibly go and be their number 1. He looks great from everything I've heard. So we'll see tomorrow night. I think he's going to leap out off the field tomorrow night. He's going to really stand out. Number 2, it's the floppy ankle man of Dak Prescott. The ankle is no longer floppy. The shoulder is apparently healed. I don't think tomorrow's going to be a super game for him, but you got to remember, before he got hurt, he was on pace for almost 7,000 passing yards. If he comes back anywhere near that, he is going to be absolutely beastly. And I've got him as many places I could, but I'd like to wait on the quarterback, so not as much as I'd like. And then number 1, my most drafted player, the person I think will personally end the season the number 1 fantasy running back, and that is Antonio Gibson. I think he gets the passing game work. I think Washington is fit to go. Fitzmagic will open that up in the deep passing game, which will open it up underneath for Antonio Gibson. He showed that he could go into the NFL from a wide receiver in college to a running back that they didn't pass to, so he can easily get the passing game. Wide receivers tend to be a little tougher than running backs as far as durability. I know he's playing running back now, but you've played wide receiver in the past. Look at Ryan Tannehill, never gets hurt. It's a theory I'm working on. I don't know if it's accurate, but yeah, my number 1, Antonio Gibson, without question this year. So Joel, have we recovered from the spill? Are we good?
Yep, recovered from the spill.
All right, so I kind of killed time going over the Megala Bowl draft while you were up and finding a towel. So those are my fantasy heroes. Anything stand out from my list?
Nope, just other than some AB, we'll just that's sort of have to see if he can contain himself and continue on the course that he was last year and improve it. Because I saw on there's a blurb about the fact that the Bucs coaching staff really tends to think that he's playing his best in 5 years, and so that you can just tell that the fantasy ADP hype is going up.
Yeah, I'm glad I got him early and often because now he's going a little too expensive in most places. So then we'll go to our fantasy zeros. You're not necessarily people that we think are terrible players, but they're people that, at least on my list, I think are either getting too much love, they're too hyped, or they'll bust it, or they're just, frankly, not worth drafting at all due to the situation or just where you would have to pick them. So, Joel, go ahead with your 5 zeros and let's not spill anything.
Starting off with my first zero, and I believe you have them in the League of Winning. That would be one DJ Shark.
Yeah, I figured he was going to be on your list. I almost put him on my fantasy heroes. He was a near cut, but
Yeah, because he's I know he's available for week one, even with the finger surgery, but he's just going to have to look to rebound with a new quarterback and a whole new offensive game plan. So even though he's at the top of the receiver core for the Jags, I don't know. You had some games last year that he was good, and then there were just some weeks that he just absolutely vanished into nothingness.
yeah, I think the difference is you're seeing the new offense, the new coach, and the new quarterback as a negative. I think it's a positive. He's getting an upgrade at quarterback. I think he's going to be better off with the new situation. I don't love him, don't be wrong, but you can get him for next to nothing. He's falling badly in drafts at this point.
And my next fantasy zero, definitely another name I'm sure you're not surprised to see on the list. That would be one Cincinnati Bengals running back, Joe Mixon, even though he's expected to receive more than 300 touches in 2021. Just the thing that stands out absolutely more than anything are the injuries. And just like you had a DJ Shark who missed because of, in some cases, performance, just Joe Mixon. And you had enough of those injuries that you saw zero or pretty darn near close to. And you're going, why did I start him? Valuable spot taken up, that production gone.
So this is the part of the show where Joel just craps on my League of Winning team as his first two duds, first two zeros have both been rostered on the same team. Joel, keep bashing my team.
My absolute pleasure. I will be happy to do that.
Hey, 4 of the people on my team have already been mentioned between heroes and busts, so we're in great shape.
And of course, the next person I have to end up mentioning is Fantasy Zero, not because of his fantasy performance per se, but of course because of all the drama surrounding one Deshaun Watson, who we just wait week after week. Is he going to be suspended? Isn't he going to be suspended? And you can just tell as one draft after the other when you're seeing round 15, 14, and even 16. And who's still on the board? Yeah, Deshaun Watson. Everybody else is not even wanting to touch him with the 10 or even a 12-foot pole. Not sure what's going to happen to as far as the future goes. And despite how much potential he has, and we saw it last year with that, he can be absolutely unbelievable and have those weeks that can win you the entire week. But because of the legal drama and everything that currently surround him with the maelstrom, everybody is staying far, far away.
Yeah, unless he gets traded and cleared, I think that's a safe bet.
So, and of course, my final fantasy zero, which definitely might be somewhat of a surprise, but that would be one Taysom Hill, just because all of a sudden, when Drew Brees, of course, was injured in 2020, and you had the Saints going, okay, we have Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, and they actually went with Hill. And Hill started weeks 11 through 14, and of course, just ended up having a pretty decent week as far as people who started him in fantasy. Not anything where near Drew Brees, and of course, that affected Alvin Kamara's fantasy value big time. If you had AK on your team last year and you had the Breeze injury and then you had the Taysom Hill time, that just you're going, okay, Breeze, when are you coming back? And you just have to wonder with Winston. Winston is now unquestionably the quarterback, but is he gonna have? Does Taysom Hill have any chance of being even a QB2 or a QB3? Just unless something happens to Jameis Winston, there is absolutely zero value right now for one Taysom Hill, and that's why I have to put him in there as a fantasy zero.
Yeah, he's not going to play. All right, so that is Joel's fantasy zeros. I, again, have a bonus on this one. This is one that honestly just drives me absolutely insane with all of the hype. And I don't see it. I just, this guy's been labeled as a project coming into the league. He's been labeled as he's not quite ready, but he went to a good situation. He went to a good situation. That's Trey Lance. There are people drafting him in the 7th, 8th round. He's not a starter. Jimmy Garoppolo will start the season as the starter, which means Trey Lance is taking up a bench spot on your roster right now if you've drafted him. Now, by week 13, 14, 15, he may be a valuable enough commodity, but at this point, he's definitely not worth a 7th or 8th round pick where he's going in certain drafts. So at that point, he has to be a fantasy zero. And another bonus would be Michael Thomas for pretty much the same reason. He's not going to play for at least the first 6 weeks. However, neither of those made my top 5, just honorable mentions. Number 5, CeeDee Lamb. I've seen him go as early as the 2nd round in drafts. I don't think that's a wise decision. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be in a very, very competitive passing game with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and himself. Not to mention Zeke Elliott is going to come back and be better than he was last year. I'm going to say CeeDee Lamb is one of the larger bust candidates of the season based on where he is drafted. I don't see it. I don't see it being a good move for them. Now, with that being said, it's still entirely possible I'm wrong on that one. He's going to have enough targets and opportunity that team is good enough to sustain multiple wide receivers. I just don't think he's worth that 2nd round pick. Number 4 is Jonathan Taylor of the Colts. Came out today that they want to get Nyheim Hines back involved with the passing game, which means none of that volume, or at least not a significant portion of that volume, is going to go to Jonathan Taylor this year. I think Wentz is going to throw the ball better and more than Phillip Rivers did last year. I think Pittman's going to step up. I think Hilton's going to return to form a little bit when he's healthy, and expect someone like Paris Campbell to come up and be solid. They've always had decent tight end play. So I just think the ball's going to be spread around too much for Jonathan Taylor to be worth that 1st round pick. I have drafted none of these players, by the way, in anything outside of dynasty. So if someone I already had, so be it, but it's not somebody I've drafted at all this season. Number 3 is a 2-4, and that is the Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs backfield. Frankly, I think they're just going to cannibalize each other. Simple as that. Don't need to go too deep in it. If one of them gets hurt, then obviously it's the other that'll take off, but I think they're both going to be bad as long as they're both healthy. Number 2, can anybody explain why there's so much hype around Jets receiver Corey Davis? Oh, they paid him a lot of money. Yeah, who cares? It's still the damn Jets. It's still Corey Davis, the guy who couldn't catch the ball consistently with a better quarterback in Ryan Tannehill and being the number 2. You think he's all of a sudden going to go into a tougher division where the Patriots, the Dolphins, and Bills all have very good defenses, and he's going to light it up with a rookie quarterback? I don't see it. And people are drafting him out of their mind. There are people taking him, and I want to find this draft from last night because I saw some really, really odd picks in this league last night. And let's see, where did he go as it loads up? I know, great radio. He went round 6, pick number 11. You want to hear the people that went after him for receivers alone? Kenny Golladay, Antonio Brown, Cortland Sutton. I'm skipping over Jamar Chase, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Cooks, Laviska Shenault, Travis Boyd, DJ Chark, Fuller, Landry, Darnell Mooney, and I don't get the hype. I don't get the hype on this one. He went before Devontae Smith, who oddly enough went the pick later. I'm saying there were better options at that point. It kind of surprised me. I don't know why he's drafted that high. Joel, any idea why Corey Davis is a hot commodity? Because I've got nothing.
Just maybe it's the sort of the same things that want to get a starting running back, even if they're on a bad team. Maybe it's that kind of logic.
The problem with that theory is I got Marquise Brown in round 10, and he is unquestionably the number 1 receiver in Baltimore. And correct me if I'm wrong, Baltimore's a better team than the Jets. I think I trust the Baltimore Ravens' Marquise Brown a lot more than I trust very unproven Corey Davis. Remember, Marquise Brown, top 15 wide receiver in the second half of last season when Lamar Jackson was healthy and playing well.
Only other thing I can think of is the new quarterback effect.
There's a lot of hype there. My number one, and this is going to hurt you, Chris Godwin. I'm that high on Antonio Brown. Honestly, I think Mike Evans, just on the touchdowns, will sustain where he was last year. I think Chris Godwin, already dealing with a nagging muscle injury. You said it, Antonio Brown, the coach is saying he's looked better than he has in the last 4 or 5 years when he was a top 10 fantasy pick. He is a pet project for Tom Brady. Brady loves him some Antonio Brown. I just think Chris Godwin last year with the injury and early injury concern this year is a risk. And the fact of the matter is I think Brady's got a better connection with Brown. He's got a better connection with Evans. He's got a better connection with Scotty frickin' Miller. And he's got a better connection with Rob Gronkowski. And at that point, Chris Godwin is a great, talented, all-world wide receiver who might just find himself edged out of this offense enough. And he's going to the 4th round. That's the problem.
Rankings question. Chris Godwin or Chase Claypool?
Oh, that's... I'm going to say Chase Claypool. There are some people that would say that is the wrong Steelers receiver. They would go Deontay Johnson, who also was considered in my zeros list. But I think Claypool is going to explode. He had one of the highest target shares on routes run.
Chris might chime in about Deontay.
Yeah, that's who I was talking about. He's high on Deontay Johnson. For what it's worth, I would take Deontay Johnson also over Chris Godwin. Just because I really think Mike Evans is going to sustain his workload, which was massive. And Antonio Brown is going to keep getting more of that offense. And if he does, Chris Godwin, even though it's a great offense, the number 3 receiver just doesn't get the work that you're expecting. So if he was going a few rounds later, different story. But he's going end of round 3, early to mid round 4. It just seems a little too expensive for someone I think is going to fall off the cliff this year. So anyways, that is our fantasy zeros and heroes. Eckler did not practice.
Are you talking about the Jets again?
No. Breaking news, Austin Eckler did not practice today. Also was very close to my list due to a hamstring injury. That is horrible news for a running back the Wednesday before week number 1. I am very happy to say I have no shares of Austin Eckler. I want no shares of Austin Eckler. And that is just coming out. And that is a huge loss for the Chargers.
I do have 1 share of Austin Eckler in the Flea Flicker League.
Yeah. No shares on all of these teams, except for maybe this one that still drafts tonight. All of them are Austin Eckler free, thankfully, in this case, because a hamstring injury for a running back seems to be less than ideal. All right, so let's do our biggest surprise team of the season. This is the team that most people think are going to be bad, subpar, downright awful, and we think, you know what, maybe they get a shot.
And mine, I think it's going to sort of surprise you a little bit.
We did not talk about these beforehand.
Just
so you know.
I know everyone is going to think about me and going, okay, you're picking the Jets with that, even with Adam Gase as the offensive genius.
He's gone. He's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yes, I know. We've got Zach Wilson, Tevin Coleman, and the one that you might have just mentioned, Corey Davis, wondering why is there all this hype? But I'm just picking the Jets because you ended up having that little bit of time that all of a sudden they kept sucking, and then all of a sudden they came back and absolutely, I can't say shocked the world type comeback, but I think they surprised everyone to the point that, okay, what? They won? Really?
Yeah.
They did? Okay. I just tend to think that there has to be something there that, okay, if they were really tanking, and then of course we're not able to tank successfully, yeah, so they might not be as quite a suck job as they were last year. I'm not thinking that, okay, all of a sudden they're going to win the division, they're going to go all the way or anything, but I think they have a shot at being a surprise.
What kind of record would you put on them? I'm just curious how much of a surprise. Because me, if they get 3 or 4 wins, I'm shocked. So I want to know how surprised are you thinking?
Maybe surprise. I'd say 6 wins.
Okay. So not a great team, but everybody's kind of thinking they're going to be a dumpster fire again.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
one of those seem like they're going to get some wins that you're not going to expect, but they're not going to blaze any trails to the playoffs or anything.
Okay. Well, I think they're going to go 0-6 in the division, which means they would have to go about 6-5 outside of it, which is fairly solid. We'll see. They are playing the NFC South, which is where my team actually resides. The Bucs are going to win that division. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I think the Saints are going to fall off a little bit, but they'll still be competitive. I actually think my biggest surprise is the Carolina Panthers. People are writing them off. They said the defense was terrible. Well, they spent all of their draft picks, not this year, but the year prior in 2020, on the defensive side. They had a lot of young, inexperienced defensive players that are going to keep maturing and growing. Their offense is kind of loaded. Christian McCaffrey, they got Terrence Marshall, the rookie, who seems to be great. They've still got DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, who is on my heroes list. Not to mention Sam Darnold, and I know people are going to go, Sam Darnold, that guy sucks. It's like he sucked with Adam Gase on the Jets. You know who else sucked under Adam Gase? Ryan Tannehill. How do you feel about Ryan Tannehill today, Joel? A lot better than he did when he played for the Dolphins. So I'm going to take my chances that Darnold's going to take a step up. He is a much, much better situation in Carolina. That is a very weak division outside of Tampa Bay. I don't know what we expect from the Saints. They did just get a Roby from the Texans at corner. If they finish at 8-9, 9-8, not necessarily a playoff team, but at least on
in their home stadium probably for the first month easily.
Yeah, I could see Carolina being right around the 500 mark. I know there's no 500 anymore, but 8-9, 9-8, they'll be that in the hunt team that really doesn't have a chance for the last couple of weeks. They'll be the one with the stupid. This team needs to tie with this team, and this team needs to win by 27.
Were seemingly always in the hunt last year, and then.
Yeah, so I think Carolina's got a real shot to shock a lot of people. I think they could go 3-3 in that division. They'll get a win against the Jets, in my estimation. That gets them to 4, and then they are going to be playing, a third place schedule. So they're going to get some of the softer matchups in that conference. So I think the Panthers could be a middle of the road team where a lot of people are down on. They say they're just not ready. They laugh at the Darnold acquisition. They say the defense isn't good enough. So that's my surprise, and I'll say they go 9-8. I say they are a winning team, but only just. All right, so let's go to our biggest flop. This is a team that a lot of people think is going to be good, that we think is going to crap poop the bed.
I know that this might be a bit of a stretch, but I tend to think one of the biggest flops out there is going to be the New York Giants. Because
that's bold because they're in a soft division.
Soft division. You've already had the fight in practice that sort of made a little bit of splash, and you have, of course, the question of Barkley, when his durability is, and how much of the injury from last year is that going to carry forward. Daniel Jones is just wondering if he can recover from that year last year. Plus, you've had the reduced preseason this year, so there's one less game now that they can get ready for whatever that entails. And I don't know. It's just the general vibe that you tend to get from the Giants is just there's just not a lot to quantify, but you just tend to feel I have a bad feeling about this with them this year.
All right. Well, let's break that one down a little bit. So they're in the NFC East with the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Turds. I would venture a guess that you believe the Cowboys and the Turds are just better than the Giants pretty much across the board.
Not
Is
better,
that
maybe
fair?
just not as bad.
Okay. I'm not saying any of these teams are great. I'm just trying to work through this.
This is
Because
the
the
NFC
Giants are one
East
of
we're
those,
talking about.
yeah, the Giants are one of those trendy teams for people to go, oh, they could sneak up and win that division. Maybe I don't know. For me, I'm going to go to one of the teams. I'm going to say the only team in the division that is currently regressing at this point. Their defense got worse this offseason. Their offense did not improve drastically. I'm going to say it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know they got Najee Harris, but they still didn't improve their offensive line. Their quarterback is still 114 years old with half an arm. And you saw how bad Pittsburgh looked the last 5 weeks of the regular season and into the playoffs, where they got absolutely embarrassed on multiple occasions. Najee's going to help give them a running game, but I don't think that offensive line is good enough. I don't think that defense is anywhere near as good as it was last year. You also have TJ Watt potentially holding out. Looks like he's going to suck it up and play, but I just think Pittsburgh's going to fall off. Baltimore's getting better in my estimation. Cleveland has ascended. Cincinnati's got a lot of good pieces in place. And Pittsburgh just seems to be the one that's about to be stuck in reverse. So I'm going to say Pittsburgh with a 7-10 record this season. A lot of people think they're going to be a playoff team. I don't think they get anywhere near it.
I can buy some of that.
Yeah. I personally think it's going to take a minimum of 10 wins to be the 7th seed in the AFC. It did last year with Miami missing at 10-6. So a 7-10 team is not going to be in it. All right. So only 2 more things to do on this show. First and foremost, we are going to do our Super Bowl picks. We're going to spoil the entire season right now. We're going to tell you who's in the Super Bowl, who wins it, and I even got a score ready for you. So after this, you can just play your fantasy for the fun of it because you know how the rest of the season is going to go. But Joel, before I tell you my right answer, I want you to tell us your thoughts on who is going to be in the Super Bowl and who is going to win it.
Oh, yeah. I tend to think that the Bucks have a definite chance to go back and repeat, and that opponent, it will be just a horrible, horrible historical thing because it's going to be the Buffalo Bills going back to the Super Bowl and losing again.
Oh, that's what the Bills do. You got a score for us on that game?
Oh, I didn't pop up the score. I'll go somewhere on the low side. We'll do good old fashioned 21-17.
All right. So that's a good pick. I like it, but it's completely wrong. There are 2 teams that right now stand out to me as being, I need to prove something now. And those 2 teams are the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson overcoming all these running game issues. They're still going to be fine with Gus Edwards. They're still going to be fine with Le'Veon Bell. The poop game is especially what he came over. That's when he became a superhero to me, is the poop game. If you know what I'm talking about, Monday Night Football, 47-42 winner, where he left the field for an extended period of time due to cramping. And then he came out like
the field goal kick felt around the world.
Yes, the one where Joe lost by 1/10 of a point. But I think Baltimore's got a lot to prove. I really do. I think Lamar Jackson, they won a playoff game last year, but he didn't play great. I think he's got a lot to prove. They had I think they had the highest point differential last year, 0.4 minus points against, which means offensively stellar, defensively even better. That's a very good combination, Joel. If you don't know, having a great offense and a great defense usually works out well.
I've heard.
The other team in the Super Bowl will be one Green Bay Packers. And that is one very angry,
That wouldn't
very
have
mad.
anything to do with a certain fantasy pick that you ended up doing in one of your teams, I believe.
Well, no, it has nothing to do with the fantasy. I do believe Aaron Rodgers will win the MVP again. I do believe he has a chance to break not only the passing yards record, but also the passing touchdown records, along with Devontae Adams, because if they're gearing up for a Chicago Bulls style last dance, like it so clearly seems, Aaron Rodgers is a colossal a-hole. If you don't know him or have not ever heard anything about him, he is a colossal a-hole, which means several things. One, he's not necessarily someone you want to hang out with. He's not necessarily going to be buddy-buddy with you. However, that also means when you slight him, he's going to do everything he can to prove you wrong, to give you the bird before leaving town. And he's going to leave town with a ring on the middle finger towards the Green Bay general manager. I think the Packers win 29-24 over the Baltimore Ravens.
Don't ever underestimate the power of somebody being pissed off. Tom Brady, I sort of was a good exhibit.
Yes. You know why the Hulk is so powerful? Because he's angry. That is what Aaron Rodgers is. Oh, by the way, he's already in green. He's already got the Hulk strength. He's got the Hulk color. He's going to get the championship this year. So Rob is very, very happy. Chris, whatever we called him on the podcast, I don't even know. He goes by both. Yeah. He's going to be very happy as a diehard Packers fan, and I really think this is the Green Bay Packers' last dance. I think after this, they're just going to kind of fall apart because Devontae Adams will go in free agency, Aaron Rodgers will go in free agency, and then it's going to get real bad real quick over there. But with that being said, that is your season. You are done. Enjoy watching the football because, well, it's going to happen, but we just told you how it's going to end, so understand that is book it. That's all we're trying to say. All right, so for the first time this year, and after months of waiting, the NFL season will kick off in the same stadium where it ended last year with a Bucs 31-9 Super Bowl championship over the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bucs will be raising the banner tomorrow night, just over 25 hours from this recording right now. They will be playing the Dallas Cowboys, getting Dak Prescott back, getting most of their offensive line back intact. They are expected to be one of the most explosive offenses in the league. So, Joel, I don't think I have to guess on this one based on your hat, but who do you got in this one?
Yep, I just got the hat. I know you can look at it and overanalyze it and go, okay, it's basically an award ceremony. You could have the home team be distracted by that, by national audience, by all the buzz going on and bloody. It's Brady. I think he's going to have everybody's mind focused. Will it still be a game by the halftime? It'll be interesting. We'll see, because you just have the Prescott injury is back on the forefoot, back and foremost on everybody's mind. That's easy for me to say. So it's just gonna see. Can the Bucs show the world that they can close the door early?
I agree that Tampa will win this game. I do think it's going to be relatively high scoring. Actually, I think it's going to be outright high scoring. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think for fantasy, there's going to be some guys that explode. I think Antonio Brown's got a good chance of being a real stud this weekend or for week one. I'm going to say the Bucs win it 38-31. I think the offense is ahead of the defense at this point of the season. As the season goes on, the defenses tend to catch up. So if there's going to be an awkward, high-scoring affair between these two teams, it makes sense. It's going to happen early on. The Bucs do have the distraction of the Super Bowl ring and banner celebration that may get them a little slowed off the mark. I don't think it's going to be a long, sleepy start because Tom Brady has done this, 6 other times in the past. This will be his 7th season opener after winning a Super Bowl, that SOB. So I think the Bucs will be fine. They're going to win this game 38-31. Let's say 3 passing touchdowns for each quarterback. 1 for Fournette, 1 for Jones, and 1 for Zeke. So yeah, both on the Bucs. So we will start 1-0 or 0-1 at the same time. Unlike last year, where Joel took the Texans to beat the Chiefs in the opener. Little did he know the Chiefs were a dumpster fire last year. Everybody thought they were going to be good this time last season. So who knows? Maybe that's the Cowboys. We think, oh man, this team could really be good, and they're going to be a dumpster fire because that's kind of what the Cowboys do. But the Bucs, I think they're just too good. Not to mention, road teams on Thursday night are horrific with a winning percentage under 30, I believe. So we're going to take the Bucs. We're going to roll with that, and that will conclude the last sports shuffle before the NFL regular season commences. We will be back, I believe, Friday night to do the rest of our week 1 picks. If anybody does want to pick against us, we have a link from a website called runyourpool.com. You can join it. You can compete against us. You can get beat by us. The goal for wins, Joel had 193 last year. Won our little competition, if that matters. But with an extra 16 games, we're going to up the total. The goal last year was 200. Joel got very close. I wasn't too far behind. The goal this year is going to be 205. Joel with one more week. Last year, 16 games. Maybe you can go 12-4. That's kind of the benchmark. I'd like to see one of us get to 210, but that is going to be very, very tough with the extra games. So we're going to say 205 is going to be our goal for a win. This is from tomorrow's game number 1 to the last game of the regular season, which I believe has 285 games. Let me just check. How many games? Yeah, I know it's a 17. Okay, there's easier ways to do this. Oh, also one more fact about the Bucs. Don't forget, they are going to have home field advantage. One of the few, or the first team to have a proper home field advantage in over a year. So, regular season games is 272. As we do the math live on air, because math is entertaining.
Yeah.
Then 6 in the super wild card weekend, 4 more in the divisional, 2 in the championship, and 1 in the Super Bowl. 285 games. So we're
okay. What is more ridiculous? A super wild card weekend or week 0 in college football? How do you have a week 0?
I mean, week 0 only had 2 games, and I think it's just not important. But super wild card weekend is super fun. Yeah, I don't like the moniker super.
Card weekend.
It's just wild card weekend. You took a bye away. It didn't change anything. You still have the same amount of teams. Just okay, or one more team, whatever. All right, so that's going to bring us to our final thoughts in this final episode before the NFL regular season. So, Joel, I know you're going to tell me crazy stories off the air and then not bring them in for your final thoughts.
We'll save that one for another time, just because you ended up having a college coach attempt to do a callback to a John McKay quote and totally flub it up. Of course, I am talking about the Notre Dame coach Brian Kelly, who, of course, you have that rather awkward clip where he's talking to him, he's talking to the sideline reporter, and all of a sudden he just comes out with the fact that he thinks his whole team should be executed, and most people are kind of like, "What? Huh, what?" Of course, that quote, as he later said to a reporter, was actually a callback to a very old John McKay quote from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coach, of course, during that absolutely horrific time, 2 years where I think the Bucs didn't win a game. And on one occasion, a reporter ended up asking Coach McKay allegedly, Coach, what was your and I'm screwing up the quote that Coach, what was your opinion of the execution of the offense? And his quote, of course, yay, I got it right. I'm
Hey.
in favor of it. And that's the quote that Brian Kelly, just like I screwed up live, Brian Kelly was trying to get out and also totally flubbed it up. So, yeah, it just went viral. Everyone ended up getting upset. And I think if he had gotten it right, people might have gone, oh, he's just doing a callback to Coach McKay. But much like myself, totally flubbing it up live, you can kind of see when you're trying to do something off the cuff and you're like, oh, okay, that's one, like I said, I think earlier, it's like curly, I'm trying to think. Nothing happening. So, yeah, it was just sort of weird how we had the week before was, of course, Bishop Sycamore, and now we have Coach Brian Kelly attempting to do a John McCain, much like I just did myself, and flubbing up, and he ended up totally flubbing up the quote too. Anyway, follow interesting thing is that I actually checked into this, and I don't think anyone actually ever proved that John McKay actually said that quote. This is it's sort of one of those urban legends, something that somebody was thought that they said, and nobody ever knows did they really say it.
All right. So we are not going to hear about the turd that got a sub captured on this
Oh
one.
no, no, that was actually I'll do the TLDR version. No,
All right.
there's actually a U-boat in towards the end of the Second World War that apparently because they're you getting rid of
Turds.
turns underwater, you have to have this
Under the
whole
sea.
specialized system to do it, and that the U-boat actually had one technician on board who their entire job was to take care of this special high pressure
He
toilet
is the commode commander.
that the U-boat captain apparently was the pretty much I think the one of the only people who tended to use it. Apparently, the captain used it, uh, didn't tell the technician about it or until later, and then the technician took care of it. Apparently, somehow misjudged everything because he wasn't informed by the captain that he used the high pressure toilet, and there was a backup of sewage that was starting to come in and started to leak into the U-boat. That ended up getting to apparently to some electrical equipment and batteries. You had some chlorine gas now enter the picture, which of course you have to
Chlorine gas
surface
is
the ship.
toxic.
You have to surface the ship, get everybody out. Of course, the RAF was around the area. They ended up sinking the sub and capturing most of the crew as a result of a plumbing problem, which is the fate of U 1206. Probably one of the most honest ways ever for a naval vessel to meet its fate because of a toilet plumbing problem.
Yeah, that is the first time I've heard of someone dropping one turd and leaving two floaters. All
Yeah.
right. Because one was the turd, the other was the sub. Anyways,
So a little bonus sports shuffle history.
yes, history with Joel. All right, so I'm gonna bring it back to sports, and again, it's the eve before NFL season, fantasy football season. So
Can you imagine having to, somebody that's saying that war story? Well, how was your ship sunk again?
yeah, sir, we need the surface. Why? The captain took a dump.
And I believe the captain's name was Schlitt. My,
Oh, it's just so good. It never gets old. So again, we are ready for the fantasy football season, the NFL season. Cherish it while it's here. It's only here for so long.
it will go by in about 5 seconds. I kid you not. Literally,
Yes.
it's how long the season takes.
Yes, I have one more draft to go. Starts in 59 minutes and 5 seconds. I officially know I have pick number 8 for me. This is the only league that's not underlined because it's the only league that hasn't
right
drafted.
outside of the snake, but that's not at the start.
I'll say this. This is probably my softest league of competition. That includes the Family Feud League where we had
Who does
somebody.
that mean you usually get at 8?
In this draft, it'll probably be like Alvin Kamara or something silly like that.
You only got Derrick Henry, I think, in one league, right?
I only have Derrick Henry in a Dynasty League and the Megalo Bowl. I did not get him anywhere else. I'm actually kind of down on Derrick Henry this year. I just have this feeling this is going to be his last season of real viability. My wife got him, and she's very, very happy, and I hope it works out for her, but I don't know. We'll see. She's done really well with her drafting, so only time will tell. But cherish the fantasy football while it's here. If you have any drafts going on between now and the start of the actual season tomorrow night, good luck with those. I will. I think I'm going to have a great team with this league. It's usually a pretty soft draft, and we draft in just under an hour, and that'll be it. And then we get started with the main event of the regular season. So
let the waiver wiring commence.
Yes, we finally will have I think I have 2. The way the Megalo Bowl and this Juice 5 down here work is they're like super leagues where you play in a league, and if you finish in a certain portion of the league, you move on. I have 2 of those. I got a Vampire League for the first time, a few Dynasty Leagues. I do have an Auction for Fun League that I did yesterday, and I'm all right with it. Overpaid for Christian McCaffrey, but I wanted to just bid the price up and then no one bid. So, well, that works out. So we'll be back Friday. We'll see how we do with our Thursday night pick. And then we start with the full slate of Sunday games. And the season is finally here, Joel. It is finally time for some football.
And I think we are ready for some football, as the song goes that I promised.
Yes, we are definitely ready for some football, and we are definitely going. So we go.